Hello, my name is Phaedra Scott, and I am from Wilmington, Delaware. Today, I would like to talk about Lillian Hellman's The Little Foxes. To begin this discussion, I'd really like to talk about Lillian Hellman herself, who is a very fascinating character in women's history, but not only that, but American theater history. As a woman who is also a screenwriter and a social activist at the turn of the 20th century, her influence in creating these poignant pieces is still massively important to what it means to American theater. The Little Foxes was published first in 1939. That year, World War II had just started over in Europe, and although the United States was not yet involved with World War II, it was still alive in the newspapers and clippings, so it's very much a part of the American mindset at the time. Especially after coming off of World War I and then right before that, the Civil War, the United States had gone through periods upon periods of war. And then The Little Foxes is produced and goes on Broadway, and we have this really creative questioning piece of, is the Civil War really over? The Little Foxes itself is set in 1900, and to give more background about the world of 1900, we have to think that that's only 35 years after the Civil War had ended legally, but that does not mean the mindset of Southerners or Northerners truly changed within 35 years. There are still veterans that had been alive at the time, and the memory of the Civil War and the destruction of the war, in both like the mindset of what it means to be an American versus what it means to be Southern versus what it means to be Northern, are still truly active roles in this play. The Little Foxes itself is set in the South in 1900, and so right there it gives a landscape of uncertainty for the Southern identity. It deals with a family who is trying to uphold their Southern aristocratic roots. And to do that, they need to bring in industrialization, a typically Northern thought or idea. So they bring in this industrialist, this investor from Chicago, Illinois, named William Marshall, who has this romantic idea of the South, an idea that the Hubbard family is unable to really attain because they are losing their wealth, their money, slowly as the play goes on. So the contrast between North and South is seen in this power relationship between industrialization as opposed to agriculture, which the South did rely on for a very long time. But at the same time, it deals with racial issues too, as this Southern Hubbard family speaks about how they treat the African Americans in the town unfairly, and they all know that they do it, yet there are others who don't like that, yet don't say anything about it. I think two of the more poignant characters of this play for me are the characters of Cal and Addie. And as you see them, they're the only two African Americans in the play, yet they're the very first people who are introduced in the play. You watch them as they serve the Hubbard family throughout, and they're completely aware of the situation that's going on. But it lends to the idea and to the huge question that crosses all of these characters. Are you responsible for what you do not do? Like, how do you become implicated even though you have no direct connection to the problem at hand? And that is something that each of the characters of this play question throughout the play on their own. And then you have the Hubbard siblings, Regina, Oscar, and Benjamin, who all come from the same stock, from the same family, and they're siblings, yet they treat each other more as business rivals than siblings, which is a very fascinating dichotomy to look at, because the idea of siblings is this person that you're supposed to always rely on, yet these three characters are kind of put at different ends of each other, trying to one-up each other, and they're forced to believe this idea of competition as better than actual family. Then, on top of another layer that happens in this play is the other characters that are either married into the family or who are born into the family. For example, like the younger generation of Alexandra and Leo, who are two characters that are forced to either become just like their parents, of the Hubbard parents, so like Oscar, Regina, and Benjamin, or if they're going to follow their own path and do what they believe is right from what they grew up in. Then you have the characters of Bertie and Horace, who are two members of the family who are married into this Hubbard tornado of greed and exploitation, who are realizing that that's not necessarily what they signed up for, And what makes this play so fascinating is that these characters are struggling between tradition, what's right, greed, and also identity. Is your identity marked by the money that you make, or is it marked by the people that you associate yourself with? Do you become someone different because you decide to marry into this family, or do you remain the same because you stick to the values that you grew up with? And Little Foxes really, not only does it really fascinate me, but like as an audience member in Cleveland, Ohio, it's important to remember that in 1900 Cleveland, which was one of the most industrial cities at the time and was known for its manufacturing in 1900, what that means to be what this play means, the Southern play, what does that mean for it to be presented here in Ohio? What does that mean will you see the perspective of William Marshall, who is trying to invest in his family, or are you just going to look at the greed that the Southern family has? But is it greed, or are they trying to protect themselves, protect what it means to be Southern? And at the same time, I'd like you to question also, what does it mean to be Northern? Does that mean industrialization? Does that mean investing? What does it mean? And ultimately, if we're all supposed to be American, are we also responsible for what we do not do? Are we responsible for not helping out our brothers in the South, or our Southern counterparts not helping people in the North for whatever endeavors that they might have? So as you watch this play, I really, really strongly want you to consider what it means to be a Northern audience watching the Southern play, and at the same time, what it means for these Southerners to maintain their identity and how they choose to do that. Thank you very much for your time.